Back in 2013, while every other manufacturer was busy making cheap, glossy plastic smartphones, Lenovo decided to do something absolutely insane. They released the Lenovo K900. Just look at this device. More than a decade later, it still looks and feels like a high-end luxury tank. This was the absolute pinnacle of Lenovo's smartphone division. It features a non-removable backplate made of brushed stainless steel, combined with a polycarbonate accent at the bottom. But the coolest part of the design has to be the 4 exposed screws at the back. It gives the phone a raw, industrial, and masculine aesthetic that you simply don't see in the mobile world anymore. At the time, this phone felt massive. It featured a huge 5.5-inch display, which was considered a giant phablet back then. But what made it truly impressive was its thickness, or lack thereof. At just 6.9mm thin, the K900 was incredibly sleek. Holding it today in 2026, it feels remarkably rigid and premium. It doesn't flex, it doesn't creak, and the cold touch of the metal is a stark reminder of an era when phones were built to last. But the design isn't even the most fascinating part of this device. If you look closely at the bottom of the back cover, you will see a logo that you almost never see on a smartphone, Intel inside. While the rest of the world was adopting Qualcomm Snapdragon or Samsung Exynos processors, Lenovo partnered with Intel to power their flagship. The K900 runs on a dual-core Intel Atom Z2580 processors clocked at 2.0 GHz. Featuring Intel's hyper-threading technology, it was basically a desktop-grade architecture shrunk down for a mobile device. To back it up, Lenovo gave it 2 GB of RAM and up to 32 GB of storage. On paper, this was a powerhouse. The 1080p Full HD IPS display was one of the sharpest panels on the market, protected by Gorilla Glass 2. However, the x86 architecture of the Intel chip meant that Android had to constantly translate code designed for ARM processor. This led to a serious heating issues. If you push the phone just a little too hard, the stainless steel back cover would quickly heat up like a frying pan. So how does this Intel-powered giant hold up today? The Lenovo K900 is stuck on Android 4.2.1 Jelly Bean, which means official app stores and modern services are completely dead. Furthermore, because it uses an x86 Intel processor, app compatibility is even more restricted than on normal ARM-based Android phones. Let's see what happens when we sideload our essential apps, starting with Telegram X. Using an older APK compatible with Android 4.2, the app actually attempts to open. It takes a few painful seconds to load the interface, but it connects. You can still receive and send basic text messages. However, any heavy group chat or media channel will immediately cause the phone to freeze up. The dual-core Intel chip just doesn't have the modern instruction sets to handle it. Next is Facebook Lite. This app is our savior once again because it is highly optimized for older smartphone and low-end hardware. It runs surprisingly well on the K900. You can scroll through your newsfeed, check out updates, and read comments without major stutters. The massive 5.5-inch display actually makes the Facebook experience quite enjoyable. Finally, we tested an older version of Instagram. The app launches and the feed does load after a bit of waiting. The 1080p display still looks fantastic, making the photos pop with good color accuracy. But the moment you start scrolling too fast, the interface stutters heavily and you can feel the back of the phone getting warm. It's a fun visual experiment, but definitely not smooth. Using the Lenovo K900 today comes with a massive list of limitations. Beyond the obvious software debt and of Android 4.2 and the intense heat generation from the Intel chip, the battery life is pretty bad. It has a non-removable 205,000 mAh battery, which was already too small for a 1080p display back in 2013. Today, it drains in the blink of an eye. The 13-megapixel rear camera with dual LED flash was actually quite good for its time, featuring a wide f/1.8 aperture. But by today's standard, the autofocus is incredibly slow and the shutter lag makes it hard to capture moving objects. Ultimately, the Lenovo K900 remains a legendary world experiment. It represents a brief moment in time when a PC giant tried to conquer the smartphone world with raw metal and desktop power. It didn't quite work out, but it left us with one of the most uniquely beautiful smartphones ever made. Thank you for watching this episode of Retro Relic. What do you think about this stainless steel Intel powerhouse? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe and I will see you in the next one.